My name is Rebecca Martinez, and I am 32 years old. 3 months ago, I sat at what I thought would be a normal Sunday dinner. My father slammed his fist on the mahogany table so hard the wine glasses rattled. He shoved loan documents across the linen tablecloth toward me and said I owed this family everything. That signing for $270,000 was the least I could do. My mother nodded in agreement. My brother smirked from across the table. I looked at those papers and realized my entire childhood had been a lie. Now I am sitting in a lawyer's office, about to reveal documents that will destroy them all. Before I tell you how I got here, let me know where you are watching from. Have you ever had a family member demand something outrageous from you? If this story resonates, hit that like button and subscribe, because what comes next will show you exactly what happens when family loyalty turns into family exploitation. Trust me, you will want to see how this ends. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. While other kids complained about chores, I took pride in being dependable. My parents constantly reminded me I was special, that they had chosen a specific path for me. I never quite understood what that meant, but I worked hard to live up to their expectations. I worked 2 jobs through college. Mornings, I served coffee at a campus cafe. Evenings, I shelved books at the university library. Weekends, I tutored high school students in chemistry. Meanwhile, my younger brother Nathan got everything handed to him. New laptop for his graphic design hobby. Art supplies. A car when he turned 18. I rode the bus until I was 25 and saved enough to buy my own used sedan. By the time I turned 30, I had become a pharmaceutical sales director. My salary was $85,000 per year. I had good savings, owned a modest condo, and felt proud of what I had built. But somehow, I never felt it was enough. My parents constantly compared Nathan to me, which made him resentful and made me feel guilty. Every family gathering turned into a subtle competition I never asked to enter. Dad would mention my latest sales numbers, then glance at Nathan with disappointment. Mom would talk about my condo, then sigh about Nathan still renting a studio apartment. I tried to help Nathan multiple times. I bought him professional graphic design equipment worth $3,000. I paid for his online certification courses, another $2,000. I connected him with clients in my network. Nothing seemed to stick. He would start projects with enthusiasm, then lose interest within months. The family narrative was clear. I was their success story. Nathan was the struggling artist who needed support and understanding. I internalized this completely. I sent money home regularly. I paid for my parents' anniversary cruise to Alaska, cost them nothing of the $8,000 trip. I bought my mother a new car when hers broke down, a $15,000 certified pre-owned sedan. My salary was comfortable, but these expenses added up. I justified it as family obligation. They raised me, fed me, sent me to good schools. Of course I should help them now. Strange comments from my father accumulated over the years. Remember what we gave up for you. Not everyone gets the opportunities you had. We made sacrifices you will never understand. I assumed he meant normal parental sacrifices. Time, energy, maybe some luxuries they forwent to raise 2 kids. At 28, I started therapy for anxiety and insomnia. My therapist, Dr. Sandra Kim, noticed patterns immediately. You seem to believe your worth is tied to what you provide others. Where did that belief come from? I could not answer clearly. It just felt true. My parents had invested so much in me. I owed them. But when Dr. Kim asked me to quantify what exactly I owed them, I fumbled. Good education, stable home, love and support. She nodded thoughtfully. And how long do you pay for those things? Forever? The question haunted me, but I pushed it aside. Family is family. You help each other. That is what good daughters do. 3 months ago, I received a text from my mother. Special family dinner this Sunday. 6 o'clock. Dress nice. We have something important to discuss. I assumed maybe they were announcing a big trip or perhaps my father's retirement. I bought expensive wine and fresh flowers. I had no idea I was walking into an ambush. I arrived at my parents' house at exactly 6 o'clock. The neighborhood looked the same as always. Tree-lined streets in a nice suburb. Their 2-story home with the manicured lawn. Dad's SUV and Mom's sedan in the driveway. Everything, picture perfect. Nathan's car was already there when I pulled up. That surprised me. He was notoriously late to family events. Seeing him arrive early made me slightly nervous, though I could not explain why. Mom opened the door before I could knock. Her smile seemed forced. She took the wine and flowers with barely a glance. "Your father is in the dining room. We are eating soon." The dining room table was set formally. Good china, cloth napkins, candles lit. This was not normal Sunday dinner. This was performance. My stomach tightened. Nathan sat in his usual chair, looking smug and nervous simultaneously. He made eye contact briefly, then looked away. Dad sat at the head of the table, posture rigid. A manila folder sat on the empty placemat in front of him. Dinner was tense. Mom served pot roast, roasted vegetables, mashed potatoes. Normally, her cooking relaxed me, comfort food from childhood. But that night, every bite tasted like cardboard. Small talk felt forced. "How is work, Rebecca?" "Fine, busy." "How about you, Nathan?" "You know, same old." Dad barely touched his food. He kept glancing at the manila folder. Mom kept checking her phone. I asked if everything was okay. They both assured me everything was fine, just excited about the big news. Dessert came. Apple pie with vanilla ice cream. Dad cleared his throat. "Rebecca, we asked you here tonight because family helps family. Your brother has an incredible opportunity, and we need your support." Nathan straightened in his chair. He launched into his pitch. He wanted to open an artisanal coffee roastery combined with a gallery space for local artists. He had found the perfect location downtown. The lease was $12,000 per month. He needed $270,000 for equipment, renovation, inventory, and first-year operating costs. My first reaction was cautious optimism. "That sounds interesting, Nathan. Have you written a business plan? Can I see your market research?" He pulled out 3 handwritten pages. I scanned them quickly. There was no real research, no financial projections, no competitor analysis, just excited descriptions of the vibe he wanted to create and artists he wanted to feature. I chose my words carefully. "This is a great starting vision, but you need more structure before approaching lenders. I can help you develop a proper business plan. Maybe we can work on it together over the next few months." Dad's face darkened. "We don't have months. Nathan already signed the lease. He starts paying rent in 30 days. My heart sank. "You signed a lease without funding secured?" Nathan looked defensive. I had to move fast. The space was in demand. I tried to stay calm. "Okay, so what is the plan? Did the bank approve a loan?" "That is where you come in," Dad said. He pushed the manila folder across the table to me. "The bank rejected Nathan's application. His credit score is not strong enough. But with your credit score and income as cosigner, approval is guaranteed." I opened the folder. Loan application, all filled out. Nathan's name as primary borrower. A blank line where my signature would go as cosigner. $270,000 at 7.2% interest. Payments would be approximately $4,000 per month for 7 years. I felt cold. "You want me to co-sign for $270,000? "It is just a formality," Mom jumped in. "Nathan will make all the payments. Your name just needs to be on the paperwork." I looked at Nathan. Do you have $4,000 per month for loan payments? He hesitated. Not right away, but once the business is profitable. That could take years, I said. Most new businesses do not turn profit for 3 to 5 years. How will you make payments in the meantime? Dad slammed his hand on the table. The wine glasses jumped. This is exactly your problem, Rebecca. Always negative. Always finding reasons why something will not work. Your brother has a dream, and you are crushing it with your pessimism. I felt like I had been slapped. I am being realistic, not negative. Co-signing means if he misses even one payment, I am legally responsible. My credit gets destroyed. I could be sued for the full amount. You owe this family, Dad said coldly. After everything we have done for you, this is the least you can do. Mom started crying, quiet tears running down her face. We sacrificed so much for you, Rebecca. Private school, college prep, tutors, activities. You had every advantage. Now your brother needs help, and you are being selfish. Nathan leaned forward. You have always had it easier than me. You were always the favorite, the successful one. Now that I finally have a chance to build something, you are going to sabotage me? I felt dizzy. The room seemed too hot. I asked to see Nathan's business plan again, hoping to find something concrete to justify the risk. But there was nothing, just wishes and vibes. I said no as gently as I could. I cannot co-sign for this amount without a solid business plan and proof of Nathan's ability to make payments. But I will help you develop a real plan. I will introduce you to mentors. I will support you in ways that are financially responsible. Dad stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Financially responsible? Let me tell you about financially responsible. We spent our retirement fund on you. Private academy from 4th grade through 12th grade, $40,000 per year. College tuition, room and board, $60,000 per year. Tutors, summer programs, activities. We invested everything in you. Mom nodded vigorously. We gave you every opportunity. We chose you. That phrase again. We chose you. Something about it made my skin crawl, but I could not pinpoint why. I tried reason. I appreciate everything you did, but that does not mean I am obligated to risk my financial future on a business venture with no real planning. Dad's face turned red. You have 1 week to decide. If you do not sign, do not bother coming back to this family. We will know exactly where your loyalty lies. I stood up, shaking. I need time to think. This is too big a decision to make tonight. 1 week, Dad repeated. Next Sunday. Same time. Bring your signature or do not come at all. I grabbed my purse and left. No goodbye, no hug from Mom. Just Nathan's smirk following me out the door. That night, I could not sleep. I kept replaying the dinner in my mind. The way they ambushed me. The emotional manipulation. The threats. This was not normal family behavior. Something was deeply wrong. I called Dr. Kim the next morning and scheduled an emergency session. Dr. Kim's office felt like sanctuary. Soft lighting, comfortable couch, the faint smell of lavender. I collapsed into my usual spot and told her everything about the dinner. She listened without interrupting, taking occasional notes. When I finished, she leaned forward. Rebecca, I want you to do something that might feel strange. I want you to investigate your own history. Request your school records. Check your college financial aid. Find out exactly what they spent. I felt defensive. Why? They said they spent hundreds of thousands. Trust me, she said. If they are being truthful, you will have documentation. If they are not, you need to know. The next day, I contacted Street Catherine's Academy, the private school I attended from 4th through 12th grade. I filled out a records request form. 3 days later, I received a thick envelope. Inside were transcripts, attendance records, and financial documents. My hands trembled as I opened the financial section. There, printed clearly, was a letter dated August before my fourth grade year. Congratulations, Rebecca Torres has been awarded the Street Catherine's full academic scholarship based on exceptional entrance exam scores. This scholarship covers tuition, fees, and textbooks for grades 4 through 12, renewable annually based on maintaining a B+ average. I read it 3 times. Full academic scholarship. My parents paid nothing for my private school except minimal activity fees, maybe a few $100s per year total. But they said $40,000 per year. They said they drained their savings. I immediately requested records from my university. Another week passed. Another envelope arrived. Financial aid summary, all 4 years. Full ride academic scholarship based on SAT scores and GPA. Additional Pell Grant for low-income students, $5,000 per year. Work-study allocation. My parents' expected family contribution, $0. They paid nothing for my college education. I sat on my living room floor, surrounded by documents, feeling reality shift beneath me. They lied. They completely lied. But why? I remembered the adoption certificate I had found years ago while organizing old papers. At the time, I had been confused but had not pursued it. My parents brushed it off when I asked. Just a formality. Some legal paperwork from when you were born. Now I tore through boxes in my closet until I found it. California Adoption Certificate. Rebecca Marie Torres. Age at adoption, 6 weeks old. Adoption type, kinship adoption, emergency placement. Birth mother, Margaret Torres. Father, unknown, Margaret Torres. That was my mother's maiden name. My mom's name was Elizabeth Torres before she married Dad and became Elizabeth Martinez. Who was Margaret Torres? I called the only person I thought might tell me the truth. Aunt Linda, my mother's older sister. We were not close, but she had always been kind to me at family gatherings. She lived 3 hours north, near Sacramento. I did not call ahead. I just drove. I needed to see her face when I asked these questions. I arrived at her modest ranch house around 2 in the afternoon. I knocked. Linda opened the door, and her face went pale the moment she saw me. "Rebecca," she said quietly. "You found out. Can I come in?" She stepped aside. We sat at her kitchen table. She made coffee neither of us drank. She looked at her hands and said, "What do you want to know?" "Everything." Linda took a deep breath. "Margaret Torres was your biological grandmother. You never met her. She died when you were 4. "Wait," I said. "My grandmother? But who was my biological mother?" Linda's eyes filled with tears. "Your mother's youngest sister, Patricia. She was 16 when she got pregnant. The family was very religious, very ashamed. Patricia refused to name the father. Some boy from school who abandoned her. Your parents, well, your aunt and uncle technically, they were in their late 30s and could not have more children after Nathan. They offered to adopt you to keep you in the family. It was all very secretive. They told people you were theirs naturally. Patricia went to stay with relatives in Arizona until you were born, then came back and pretended to be your older cousin. I felt numb. Patricia. I vaguely remembered a woman who visited sometimes when I was little. Pretty, young, always brought me books and stuffed animals. She died in a car accident when I was 8. Linda nodded when I said this aloud. Yes. Patricia was killed by a drunk driver. She was 24. She loved you so much, Rebecca. She never stopped loving you. Did she want to give me up? Linda shook her head. No. The family pressured her. They said she was too young, that she would ruin her life. Your parents convinced her that adoption was best. They promised Patricia she could stay in your life as a cousin. They promised to tell you the truth when you were old enough to understand, but they never did." "No," Linda said softly. "They never did. And there is more you should know." Patricia felt tremendous guilt. When she got her real estate license at 21, she started making good money. She sent checks to your parents every month to help with your expenses. She wanted to make sure you had everything you needed. "How much?" Linda stood and went to a closet. She pulled out a large plastic bin. This was Patricia's. She left it with me before she died. I was supposed to give it to you when you turned 18, but your parents convinced me it would just confuse you. Inside the bin were letters, photos, and documents. So many documents. There was a life insurance policy. Patricia had named me as beneficiary. $150,000. Designated specifically for my education and future expenses. My parents were listed as trustees until I turned 25. There were bank statements showing monthly payments Patricia made to my parents. Amounts ranging from $300 to $800 per month from the time I was 2 until she died. Over 6 years, she had sent approximately $40,000. There were letters. Dozens of letters Patricia wrote to me but never sent. Letters explaining why she gave me up. Letters about watching me grow from a distance. Letters about her dreams for my future. Letters saying she loved me, that I was wanted, that giving me up was the hardest thing she ever did. I could barely see through my tears. "They kept all of this from me?" Linda hugged me. "I am so sorry. I should have fought harder to give these to you. I was scared of causing family conflict. I thought your parents would eventually tell you. I was wrong." "What happened to the life insurance money?" I asked. "I never received it." Linda's face darkened. "I wondered about that. The policy clearly stated it was for your education. Your parents were supposed to use it only for your benefit. But knowing what you have told me about scholarships, I suspect they spent it on themselves." I felt rage building. They stole from me. They stole my inheritance and my mother's love. Linda grabbed my hand. Patricia made sure everything was documented. She was careful. "All the trust paperwork is here. If they misused that money, you have legal recourse." I spent 4 hours at Linda's house, reading every document, every letter. Patricia's handwriting became familiar. Her voice emerged from the pages. She was funny, self-deprecating, deeply loving. She called me her angel baby, her biggest regret, and greatest love. In one letter written a month before her death, she wrote, "I know your parents promised to tell you about me when you were older. I hope they do. I hope you know that I loved you enough to want better for you than a 16-year-old could provide. I hope you know that not a day passed that I did not think of you. The money I am leaving you is everything I have. Use it to build a beautiful life. Use it to go further than I ever could. You were wanted. You were loved. You are loved." I loaded the entire bin into my car. Linda hugged me goodbye and whispered, "Make them accountable, Rebecca. Patricia would want that." I drove home with my mind racing. My entire life was built on lies. The parents I thought sacrificed everything for me had actually stolen everything from me. The mother I never knew loved me desperately and tried to provide for me even after death, and they kept it all from me. By the time I reached my condo, I knew what I had to do. I was not signing any loan documents. Instead, I was going to make them pay back every cent they stole. I took a week off work. I told my boss I had a family emergency, which was technically true. I spent that week organizing documents chronologically, building a timeline of theft and deception. Patricia's letters were heartbreaking. Reading them felt like meeting my mother for the first time, 6 years after her death. She wrote about her pregnancy, the shame she felt from the family, the pressure to give me up. She wrote about visiting me as a cousin, how hard it was to pretend. She wrote about her guilt and her determination to provide for me financially since she could not be my mother openly. The life insurance policy was crystal clear: $150,000, payable to Rebecca Marie Torres upon death of insured Patricia Ann Torres. Trustees Elizabeth and Robert Martinez were authorized to use funds solely for Rebecca's education, health, and welfare until Rebecca reached age 25, at which point any remaining funds would transfer directly to her. I did research on trustee responsibilities. Trustees have fiduciary duty. They must act in the beneficiary's best interest, keep detailed records, and never use trust funds for personal benefit. Violating these duties is both civil and criminal offense. My parents had violated every single rule. I found a forensic accountant through an online search. Her name was Diana Chen, and she specialized in trust fund disputes and financial fraud cases. Her reviews were excellent. I called her office and explained my situation briefly. She agreed to meet me that afternoon. Diana's office was in a professional building downtown. She was probably 50, sharply dressed, with an air of efficiency. She listened to my story without interrupting, occasionally making notes. When I finished, she said, "You have a strong case, very strong. The documentation is excellent, but I need to trace where the money actually went. That will require subpoenaing bank records." "I do not want to subpoena anything yet," I said. "Can you find out informally first?" She smiled slightly. "I have ways of finding information. Give me your parents' full names, social security numbers if you have them, and any account numbers you know about." I provided everything I could remember. She quoted me a $3,000 retainer. I paid it on the spot from savings. "Give me 1 week," she said. Meanwhile, the pressure from my family intensified. My mother called daily, leaving tearful voicemails. "Rebecca, please call me back. Your father is so hurt. Nathan is depending on you. We are family." My father sent long text messages about family loyalty, about how disappointed he was in my selfishness. Nathan texted that I was killing his dreams, that I had always been jealous of him. I did not respond to any of them. Then they showed up at my condo. It was a Wednesday evening. My Ring doorbell camera caught them. Dad pounded on the door. "Rebecca, open up. We need to talk. This is ridiculous." I spoke through the doorbell intercom. "I am not ready to talk yet. Please leave." Mom's face appeared on camera. Makeup smeared from crying. "How can you do this to us? After everything we have done? You are breaking my heart." I ended the connection and turned off my phone. Dad started posting on social media. Vague Facebook statuses about ungrateful children, about doing everything for your kids and getting nothing in return. Family friends commented with sympathy, having no idea what was really happening. 4 days after I hired Diana, she called me. "Can you come to my office? I have preliminary findings." I drove there immediately. Diana spread documents across her conference table. "Your parents liquidated Patricia's trust fund when you were 9 years old. The entire $150,000 was withdrawn over a 6-month period. Where did it go?" Diana pointed to bank statements she had obtained. "Here is a deposit of $60,000 into their checking account. 2 weeks later, they made a down payment on a house. Purchase price $230,000. Their down payment was $60,000. "That was when we moved," I said quietly. I was in 4th grade. I remembered the new house being so much bigger than our old apartment. Diana continued. "Here is a $28,000 cashier's check. Same month, they purchased an SUV. Paid in full. No loan. Here are checks totaling $15,000 over 3 years. Summer camps for Nathan. I found the camp brochures online. Very expensive programs. Here is a $12,000 charge to a travel agency. Family vacation to Hawaii when you were 11. I felt sick. "There are more expenses," Diana said. "Smaller ones, but they add up. New furniture. Electronics. country club membership. They spent your entire inheritance on themselves and Nathan within 8 years. Can we prove it was my money? Diana nodded. The deposits into their account match exactly with withdrawals from the trust account. Timing is precise. And they had no other source for that kind of cash. Your father's income was steady but modest. Your mother did not work. There is no legitimate explanation for sudden wealth except the trust fund. What about Patricia's monthly payments before she died? Diana pulled out more documents. Approximately $40,000 over 6 years. Those went straight into their general account. No way to trace specific uses, but it supplemented their income significantly. So total, they took around $190,000 that was meant for me. Diana nodded. And if that money had been properly invested for you from age 8 to now, conservatively, it would be worth approximately $400,000. You lost both the principal and 24 years of growth. What are my options? Diana leaned back. You can sue for breach of fiduciary duty, conversion, fraud, and unjust enrichment. You can also report them for criminal theft. In California, theft over $100,000 is grand theft, a felony. Statute of limitations might be an issue, but discovery rule applies. The clock started when you discovered the theft, not when it occurred. I sat quietly, absorbing this. My parents were not just manipulative. They were criminals. I need a lawyer, I said. Diana nodded. I know someone excellent. His name is Richard Foster. He specializes in estate litigation and trust disputes. Want me to make an introduction? Please. The next day, I met Richard Foster. He was in his early 60s, calm and measured. His office walls were covered with framed trial victories and professional awards. He reviewed all my documents for 2 hours. Then he looked at me seriously. This will destroy your relationship with your parents, probably permanently. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Patricia's letters, about her love for me, about the life she wanted me to have, about everything my parents had stolen, not just money, but my mother's memory, my identity, my truth. Yes, I said. I am prepared. Richard outlined the strategy. First, a formal demand letter. Give them a chance to settle before filing suit. Demand full repayment, plus interest, plus attorney fees. If they refuse, file civil lawsuit and refer to district attorney for criminal investigation. How much time will you give them? I asked. 72 hours to respond, he said. Then we proceed. The deadline for my parents' loan signing demand was Sunday. It was now Thursday. Perfect timing. Do it, I said. Richard drafted the demand letter that afternoon. It was 5 pages of legal language that boiled down to pay Rebecca Martinez $415,000 within 30 days or face lawsuit and criminal charges. The letter detailed every theft. The life insurance money, Patricia's support payments, the breach of fiduciary duty, the fraud. It included copies of key documents as exhibits. Friday morning, a process server delivered the letter to my parents' house. Friday afternoon, my phone exploded with calls and texts. I did not answer. I let them go to voicemail. Dad's voice was shaking with rage. You ungrateful, vindictive little bitch. After everything we did, you are going to threaten us with lawyers? This is how you repay us? You are dead to me. Dead. Mom's voicemail was sobbing. How could you? We are your parents. We loved you. We gave you everything. Please, Rebecca. Please, stop this. We will lose the house. We will lose everything. Nathan texted. What the hell is wrong with you? You are insane. You are destroying this family over money? I felt no guilt, only clarity. Sunday came, the day I was supposed to sign their loan documents. Instead, I was home reading Patricia's letters again, feeling closer to my real mother than I ever had to the people who raised me. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Rebecca Martinez? A woman's voice asked. Yes. This is Detective Sarah Lopez with the District Attorney's Office. We received a referral regarding possible financial crimes involving your trust fund. I would like to schedule an interview with you. Of course, I said. When? How about tomorrow? Perfect. The next phase had begun. Before the detective interview, before the lawsuit, there was one more Sunday dinner. I decided to go. Not to sign anything, but to confront them face to face with everything I knew. I prepared carefully. I charged my phone fully, started a voice recording app, and put the phone in my purse. I loaded my laptop with organized documents. I brought my briefcase with printed copies of everything. When I arrived at their house that Sunday evening, the atmosphere was poisonous. Dad opened the door without greeting. Mom sat at the dining room table, eyes puffy from crying. Nathan was there too, looking confused and angry. The loan documents were laid out on the table. A pen sat prominently on top. I sat down calmly and set my briefcase on the floor, my laptop on the table. Well? Dad said. Are you going to stop this nonsense and sign? I have questions first, I said evenly. Before I agree to anything, I need clarity about our family finances. Dad's jaw tightened. What kind of questions? I opened my laptop and pulled up the spreadsheet I had created. Tell me exactly how much you spent on my education. Dad launched into his prepared speech. Private school, $40,000 per year for 9 years. College, $60,000 per year for 4 years. Tutors, activities, summer programs. Easily $500,000. I turned the laptop screen toward them. These are my scholarship letters. Full academic scholarship for private school. Full ride for college. You paid virtually nothing for my education. Mom's face lost all color. Dad started to sputter, but I kept going. So if you did not spend money on my education, what about these? I pulled out documents showing the trust fund liquidation, the house down payment, the car purchase, Nathan's camps. Mom started crying, but this time the tears looked different. These were panic tears. Where did you get those? Dad demanded. That is not relevant. What is relevant is that you told me you sacrificed your retirement fund for me. But actually, you stole my inheritance. Patricia's life insurance money. The $150,000 she left specifically for me. You spent it on yourselves. Nathan looked between me and our parents. What is she talking about? What inheritance? I turned to him. Did you know I am adopted? His eyes widened. What? I pulled out the adoption certificate. I was born to Patricia Torres, Mom's younger sister. Remember Aunt Patricia, who died when I was 8? She was my biological mother. She left me life insurance money for my education. Mom and Dad were supposed to hold it in trust for me. Instead, they spent it. Nathan picked up the adoption certificate, reading it slowly. His face went through several emotions. Shock, confusion, then understanding. He looked at our parents. Is this true? Dad slammed his hand on the table. It was family money. We decided what was best. It was legally designated for Rebecca, I said. You were trustees. You had a legal obligation to use it only for my benefit. I pulled out more documents. Patricia also sent money every month when I was little. Approximately $40,000 over 6 years. Where did that go? Mom was fully crying now, mascara streaming down her face. We needed it, Rebecca. We were struggling. Your father lost his job. I leaned forward. Tell me about that. There was silence. Heavy, awful silence. Finally, Mom broke. Your father was fired when you were 9. He had a gambling problem. He embezzled money from his company. They agreed not to prosecute if he repaid them and resigned. Nathan's mouth fell open. I kept my voice level. How much did he embezzle? $40,000, Mom whispered. I let that sink in. So you used part of my inheritance to cover his theft? Dad's face was red. I paid it back. I got another job. I provided for this family. With my money, I said. You covered your crime with money meant for a child. Money from a mother who died, thinking her daughter would be taken care of. I pulled out Patricia's letters. Did you know she wrote to me? Dozens of letters, explaining everything. Telling me she loved me? She left them with Aunt Linda, with instructions to give them to me when I turned 18. But you convinced Linda not to. You kept my mother from me twice. Once when she was alive, and once after she died. Nathan was reading over my shoulder now, looking at one of Patricia's letters. His hands were shaking. You lied to me my entire life, I said. You made me believe I owed you, that I was a burden you generously carried. But the truth is, you exploited me. You stole from me. And then you had the audacity to demand I go into debt for Nathan's poorly planned business. I pulled out the final document. Richard Foster's demand letter. This is a legal demand for repayment. $415,000. That is the principal you stole, plus conservative interest, plus attorney fees. You have 30 days to respond. If you refuse, I file a civil lawsuit and the district attorney investigates criminal charges. Mom gasped. Criminal charges? Rebecca, you cannot be serious. Theft over $100,000 is a felony in California, I said. You could both go to prison. Dad stood up, his chair scraping. You are going to put your own parents in prison? Over money? Over theft, I corrected. Over decades of lies. Over stealing my inheritance and my mother's love. Nathan finally spoke. He looked at our parents. Just sign it. You stole from her. Make it right. Dad whirled on him. You are taking her side? There are no sides, Nathan said quietly. There is just what happened. And what happened is theft. Mom reached for me across the table. Rebecca, please. We will lose the house. We will lose everything. You bought that house with my money, I said. You will remortgage it or sell it. I do not care which, but I am not walking away from this. I stood up and packed my laptop. You have the letter. You have the evidence. Your choice is simple. Settle or fight. But know that if you fight, everything becomes public. Your church, your friends, your family, everyone will know exactly what you did. I left the documents on the table and walked out. Behind me, I heard Mom sobbing and Dad shouting. I heard Nathan say something I could not make out. I got in my car and drove away. I did not look back. The next morning, my phone had 23 missed calls and 37 text messages. I did not read them. I forwarded all contact information to Richard Foster and told him to handle all communication. Wednesday, I met with Detective Lopez. She was thorough, professional, kind. The interview lasted 3 hours. I showed her everything. She took copies of all documents and said the DA's office would review for potential prosecution. Thursday, Richard filed the civil lawsuit in County Superior Court. Breach of fiduciary duty, conversion, fraud, unjust enrichment. The court documents became public record. Friday, my parents were served with the lawsuit. The battle had officially begun. The lawsuit filing sent shockwaves through my extended family. My phone became a weapon I had to silence. Aunts, uncles, cousins I had not heard from in years suddenly had opinions about my choices. My father's sister, Aunt Carmen, left a voicemail calling me cruel and heartless. Your parents gave you everything, and this is how you repay them? You should be ashamed. But Aunt Linda, who knew the truth, became my fiercest defender. She called Carmen back and told her everything. The adoption, Patricia, the stolen trust fund. Carmen never called me again, but I heard through Linda that she stopped speaking to my father. The family split into factions. Some sided with my parents before knowing the full story. Others changed their minds once the truth emerged. A few refused to believe it, even with documentation. My father tried social media again. He posted a long Facebook rant about ungrateful children and family betrayal. But this time, Aunt Linda commented with scanned copies of the trust documents. The post disappeared within hours. Richard warned me this would happen. Family lawsuits are vicious. Everyone picks sides. People who loved you will turn on you. Stay strong and do not engage. I followed his advice. I blocked most family members on social media. I stopped answering calls from unknown numbers. All communication went through Richard. The discovery phase began. Richard subpoenaed my parents' bank records for the past 24 years. Their attorney, a man named Bernard Walsh who specialized in aggressive defense tactics, fought the subpoena. He claimed it violated my parents' privacy rights. The judge disagreed. In a written order, she stated that when trustees are accused of misappropriating funds, their financial records are absolutely relevant. She gave them 30 days to comply. When the records finally arrived, they revealed even more than Diana had initially found. There was a second mortgage on the house, taken out when I was 14. They borrowed $40,000. The loan purpose was listed as home improvements, but there were no permits filed, no contractor invoices. The money simply vanished into their general spending. Diana traced it to credit card payments. My parents had racked up significant debt, were drowning in interest charges. They used the home equity loan to pay off cards, then ran the cards up again. There were also regular transfers to Nathan's account. $500 here, $1,000 there. Over the years, they had given him at least $50,000 while I was working 2 jobs and sending them money. Meanwhile, the criminal investigation proceeded parallel to the civil suit. Detective Lopez was methodical. She interviewed Aunt Linda, obtained Patricia's original trust documents, reviewed the insurance payout records. She built a timeline that clearly showed intentional theft, not misunderstanding. The district attorney's office sent my parents a target letter. This meant they were officially under investigation and charges were being considered. That is when Nathan called me. Not texted, actually called. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. "Rebecca," he said. His voice was different, smaller. "Can we meet? Just you and me?" I hesitated. "Why?" "I need to talk to you, please." "I will come to you, wherever you want." I chose a coffee shop near my condo. Public, neutral. I got there early and sat where I could see the door. When Nathan arrived, I barely recognized him. He looked like he had not slept in days. He sat down across from me. "I did not know," he said immediately. "I swear I did not know any of that. The adoption, Patricia, the trust fund. I thought they paid for your schools. I thought I was just the screw-up younger brother." I stayed quiet, watching him. He pulled out his phone and showed me text messages. Our parents, pressuring him to denounce me publicly, to post on social media about what a terrible sister I was, to tell relatives I was lying about everything. "I told them no," Nathan said. "I told them what they did was wrong and they need to make it right." "What did they say?" He laughed bitterly. "Dad called me a traitor. Mom cried and said I was breaking her heart. They have basically disowned me too." I softened slightly. "I am sorry you were caught in this." "No," he said. "Do not apologize. I benefited from what they did. Those camps, those art supplies, the money they gave me over the years. That was your money. I did not know, but I still benefited." He pulled an envelope from his pocket and slid it across the table. "There is $4,000 in here. It is everything I have in savings. I know it does not come close to what they took from you, but I want to start paying you back." I stared at the envelope. "Nathan, you do not have to do that." "Yes, I do," he said firmly, "and I will testify. If this goes to trial, I will tell the court everything I have seen and heard, how they manipulated you, how they lied, all of it." Tears stung my eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "Because it is right," he said simply. "And because Patricia deserves justice. I barely remember her, but I read one of those letters you brought to dinner. She loved you so much. They should not have kept her from you. We sat in that coffee shop for 2 hours, talking honestly for the first time in our lives." Nathan admitted he had always resented me, had always felt like the disappointment. Now he realized our parents had deliberately pitted us against each other, had created that dynamic to maintain control. He told me he was looking for a real job, something stable. He was giving up on the coffee roastery fantasy, admitting it was never realistic. He wanted to support himself legitimately. When we parted, he hugged me. "I am proud of you for standing up to them. I wish I had your courage." After he left, I sat in my car and cried. Not from sadness, but from release. I had my brother back. The real one, not the entitled persona our parents had created. At work, my boss pulled me aside. "Rebecca, I have heard rumors about a family lawsuit. I need to know if it affects your position here." I explained the situation clearly and professionally. "I am the victim of financial theft by my parents. I am pursuing legal remedies. It has no impact on my work or integrity." She reviewed the documentation I provided. HR made a note in my file supporting my credibility and noting the company had no concerns about my conduct. 4 weeks after filing, the judge ordered mandatory mediation. Both parties were required to attend with their attorneys before the case could proceed to trial. The mediation was scheduled for 6 weeks out. I dreaded seeing my parents face to face again. Richard prepared me thoroughly. Mediation is settlement negotiation. The mediator will push both sides to compromise. Stay calm. Do not get emotional. Let me handle the talking. The mediator was a retired judge named Sharon Yu, known for being tough but fair. Richard said she was excellent, would not tolerate nonsense from either side. As the mediation date approached, the community pressure intensified. People from my parents' church started learning the real story. Some reached out to apologize for judging me too quickly. Others doubled down, insisting I should forgive and move on. Aunt Linda organized a family gathering of people who supported me. About 15 relatives came, including some of my dad's siblings who were horrified by what he had done. Linda shared all the documents, explained everything. The gathering felt like healing, like truth-telling. But there were still family members who refused to see it. One cousin posted online that I was tearing the family apart over greed. Aunt Linda responded with copies of Patricia's letters. The cousin deleted her post but never apologized. My parents became increasingly isolated. Their social circle shrank as the truth spread. I felt no satisfaction in this, just sadness that it had come to this. The week before mediation, Richard's office received a settlement offer from Walsh. My parents would pay me $50,000, and I would drop all claims. Richard called me immediately. "This is insulting. They stole over $400,000 in total value, and they are offering $50? We are not even responding." "Good," I said. "See them in mediation." I spent the weekend before mediation reading Patricia's letters again, reminding myself why I was doing this. For her, for the truth, for the child I was, who deserved better. Monday morning arrived. Mediation day. I dressed in a professional suit, pulled my hair back, and tried to look stronger than I felt. Richard met me in the parking lot of the mediation center. "You ready?" "As ready as I will ever be." "Then let us get you justice." The mediation center was a bland professional building with generic corporate art on the walls. The conference room had a long table, water pitchers, notepads. everything designed to be neutral and non-threatening. I arrived with Richard at exactly 9 in the morning. My parents and Walsh were already there, seated on the opposite side of the table. Mom would not look at me. Dad glared with pure hatred. Sharon Yu, the mediator, entered briskly. She was in her 60s, gray hair pulled into a bun, wearing a no-nonsense pantsuit. She sat at the head of the table and explained the mediation process. "We are here to explore settlement. I am not a judge. I cannot force anyone to agree to anything. My role is to facilitate discussion and help both sides see the strengths and weaknesses of their positions. Let us start with opening statements." Walsh went first. He argued that this was a family matter that should have stayed private. He painted me as vindictive, motivated by greed, trying to destroy my parents financially over ancient history. He claimed the statute of limitations had expired, that my parents had acted in good faith, that any money spent from the trust was for family benefit, including me. Richard responded calmly and devastatingly. He walked through the timeline, the clear evidence of theft, the trust documents explicitly stating funds were for Rebecca's sole benefit, the discovery rule extending the statute of limitations, the criminal investigation showing prosecutors believe there is sufficient evidence for charges. He presented the forensic accounting report showing exactly where every dollar went. Sharon took a break to review documents privately. When she returned 30 minutes later, her expression was serious. "Let us move to private caucuses. I will speak with each side separately." She took my parents first. Richard and I waited in the conference room. After 45 minutes, Sharon returned alone. She sat across from us. "Off the record, you have an overwhelming case. The documentation is airtight. The trust language is crystal clear. If this goes to trial, you will win. The only question is damages and whether criminal charges follow." "What are they saying?" I asked. Sharon gave me a sympathetic look. "They still do not believe they did anything wrong. They insist they were good parents, and you owe them gratitude. Mr. Walsh is trying to make them see reality, but they are resistant." She met with them twice more over the next 2 hours. Each time she returned, she looked more frustrated. Then we moved to a joint session, both sides back in the conference room together. Walsh started to make his argument about family obligations when my mother suddenly interrupted. "We had no choice," she burst out. "Your father lost his job. We were desperate." Dad tried to shush her, but Mom kept going. The words poured out like she had been holding them for years. "He was fired. He had a gambling problem. He took money from his company. We would have lost everything." I leaned forward. "How much?" $40,000, Mom whispered. The room went silent. Even Walsh looked shocked, clearly hearing this for the first time. "So you used my trust fund to cover his theft," I said quietly. "We were going to pay it back," Mom said desperately. "We were going to replace the money. But then your father's new job paid less, and Nathan came along, and expenses kept growing, and time passed. And you never told me," I said. "When I turned 18, when I turned 25, you never said a word. Instead, you made me believe I owed you." Dad finally spoke. "We gave you a home. We raised you. That counts for something." "You raised me with money that was mine," I said. "You gave me a home that you bought with my inheritance. Everything you claim you did for me, you did with resources that Patricia left for me." Mom was crying openly now. We were ashamed. We were scared. We knew it was wrong, but we did not know how to fix it. "You could have told me the truth," I said. "At any point in the last 14 years since I turned 18, you could have been honest." Sharon intervened. "Let us take another break." During this break, I walked outside for air. Richard followed me. "They are cracking," he said. "This is good for settlement." "I do not feel good," I said. I just feel sad. That is normal, Richard said gently. You are grieving the parents you thought you had. When we reconvened, Sharon pushed hard for settlement terms. She laid out the reality starkly. If we do not settle today, this proceeds to trial. The evidence will be public. The criminal investigation will continue. Mr. and Mrs. Martinez, you will likely face felony theft charges. Even if you avoid prison time, you will have a criminal record. Your reputations will be destroyed beyond repair. You will spend tens of thousands on attorneys and still lose. She turned to me. Rebecca, you will win. But trials take time, energy, and emotional toll. Settlement today gives you certainty and allows you to move forward. What are the terms? Dad asked bitterly. Sharon looked at Richard. He had prepared a settlement proposal. Sell the house within 6 months. From the proceeds, pay Rebecca $250,000. Rebecca waives the remaining amount. You sign a statement admitting breach of trust. The statement remains private unless you disparage Rebecca publicly. Rebecca agrees not to pursue criminal charges if you comply fully. If you default on any term, she can seek full judgment, plus Rebecca refers the matter to the DA for prosecution. That is still more than the house equity, Walsh said. Then you remortgage or find another way, Richard said. These are the terms. My parents huddled with Walsh for a long time. I could hear raised voices through the conference room wall. Finally, they came back in. Where will we live? Mom asked. You will rent, I said, like millions of people do. Like I did for years while sending you money. Dad looked at me with something like hatred. You are destroying this family. You destroyed it when you stole from a child, I said. I am just making sure there are consequences. Nathan's voice came from the doorway. We all turned. He was standing there. Sharon must have let him in. Just sign it, Nathan said to our parents. You are lucky she is not sending you to prison. Dad looked betrayed. You are really going to side with her? This is not about sides, Nathan said. This is about right and wrong. You were wrong. Fix it. The turning point came when Walsh pulled my parents aside one more time. When they returned, Dad's face was gray. We will sign, he said quietly. Walsh had the settlement agreement ready. It took 2 hours to finalize the exact language, but by late afternoon, both sides had signed. My parents would list the house within 2 weeks. They had 6 months to sell and close. Upon closing, $250,000 would be wired to my account. They signed the admission of breach of trust. The criminal investigation would be closed upon successful completion of all terms. When the signing was done, my parents left without saying goodbye. Nathan came over and hugged me. You did it, he said. Sharon Yu came over and shook my hand. You handled yourself with remarkable dignity. I have been mediating for 20 years, and I have rarely seen someone stay so composed when confronting such deep betrayal. Richard walked me to my car. The hard part is over. Now we just monitor compliance. I drove home feeling numb. No victory, no triumph. Just exhaustion and profound sadness for what my family could have been and never was. My parents listed their house within 10 days of signing the settlement. The real estate market was strong. They priced it competitively and received multiple offers within a week. They accepted a full-price offer and closed in 45 days. The wire transfer hit my account on a Tuesday afternoon. $250,000. I stared at the balance on my phone for a long time, feeling nothing like I expected. Not happiness. Not vindication. Just a quiet sense of closure. I called Richard to confirm receipt. He filed the satisfaction of settlement with the court. The case was officially over. I took $20,000 and donated it to Casa de Esperanza, a nonprofit supporting foster youth education. It was Patricia's favorite charity, according to Aunt Linda. I made the donation in Patricia's full name and worked with the organization to establish an annual scholarship in her memory. The scholarship would provide $5,000 per year to a foster youth pursuing college. Patricia never got to finish raising me, but her legacy would help other young people who aged out of the system without family support. The donation felt right. Like Patricia was finally able to do what she always wanted: help young people build better futures. At work, I channeled all my energy into my career. The lawsuit had been a distraction, but now I could refocus. I landed a major account with a hospital network that brought my company $2 million in annual revenue. My boss was thrilled. Within 4 months, I was promoted to regional sales director. My salary increased to $115,000. I moved into a corner office and began leading a team of 12 sales representatives. Success felt different now. Before, I had always worked hard to prove my worth to my family. Now I worked hard for myself, because I enjoyed it, because I was good at it. The motivation was pure. My relationship with Nathan continued to evolve. He gave up the coffee roastery fantasy completely. He got a job as a junior graphic designer at a marketing agency. The pay was modest, entry-level, despite him being 30 years old, but he worked hard and proved himself talented. We had dinner once a month. Honest conversations about our childhood, about the manipulation we had both experienced, about building healthier patterns. He was in therapy, working through his entitlement and complicity. He apologized repeatedly for years of being spoiled and resentful. I forgave him. He had been manipulated too, in different ways. Our parents had pitted us against each other to maintain control. Recognizing that pattern freed us both. Nathan started sending me $50 every month. I protested that he did not need to, but he insisted. It is not about the amount, it is about making amends. I accepted the payments and added them to Patricia's scholarship fund. I sold my condo. Too many memories of guilt and obligation, of sending money to my parents instead of building my own life. I bought a beautiful 2-bedroom loft downtown, exposed brick walls and big windows with city views. I decorated exactly how I wanted, with no input or opinion from anyone else. In my study, I hung Patricia's letters in simple black frames. I created a small shrine with photos Aunt Linda had given me. Patricia at 16, young and beautiful and scared. Patricia at 20, confident and successful in her first real estate photo. Patricia at 23, laughing at some family gathering. I talked to her sometimes, told her about my day, about my victories and struggles. It felt less crazy than it sounds. She was more present in my life now than my living parents had ever truly been. My parents moved to a small 2-bedroom apartment 20 miles away. The rent was 1/3 what their mortgage had been. Dad could not adjust to the lower standard of living. According to Nathan, who still had minimal contact with them, Dad blamed me loudly and constantly for their reduced circumstances. Mom became depressed. She barely left the apartment. She stopped going to church, stopped seeing friends. The shame was too much. Once, about 5 months after settlement, they called asking for money. Dad's car had broken down, and they could not afford repairs. I said no. Richard sent a reminder letter about the non-disparagement clause in the settlement. They never contacted me again. The extended family dynamics shifted permanently. Aunt Linda became the closest thing I had to a mother. We had lunch every few weeks. She shared more stories about Patricia, helping me piece together who my biological mother had been. Patricia was funny, Aunt Linda told me. Quick-witted, a little rebellious. She did not fit the family mold. Getting pregnant at 16 was almost inevitable given how controlled and sheltered she was. The boy who got her pregnant was her first real taste of freedom, and he abandoned her the moment she told him. The family's reaction broke her heart more than his abandonment. They were so focused on appearances, on what people would think. They never asked Patricia what she wanted. They just decided adoption was best and pressured her until she agreed. She regretted it for the rest of her life, Linda said. But she also believed you were better off with stable parents who could provide for you. She never imagined they would steal from you. I wish I had known her, I said. She would be so proud of you, Linda replied. Fighting back, standing up for yourself, refusing to be exploited. That is exactly what Patricia would want. My dating life changed, too. I realized I had spent years in relationships with people who needed fixing or saving. Men with potential, with dreams, with problems I could solve. I was recreating the dynamic with my parents, trying to prove my worth through what I could provide. I took a year off dating completely. I focused on therapy, on understanding my patterns, on healing. Dr. Kim helped me recognize people-pleasing behaviors and set healthier boundaries. When I eventually started dating again, I met Gabriel Ross. He was a middle school math teacher, stable and kind. He came from a healthy family with normal boundaries and mutual respect. Our relationship developed slowly, built on honesty rather than obligation. Gabriel knew my whole story. I told him everything on our third date, expecting it might scare him away. Instead, he said, "That explains your strength. You rebuilt yourself from scratch." That is incredible. 9 months after settlement, I got an unexpected call. Mom was in the hospital. Dad had suffered a heart attack. I felt obligated to go, despite everything. Old habits die hard. I drove to the hospital alone. Found my way to the ICU. Dad was in bed, connected to monitors and IVs. He looked old and diminished. Mom sat in a chair beside him, face puffy from crying. When Dad saw me, tears rolled down his face. "Rebecca," he whispered. Mom stood and grabbed my hand. "He has been asking for you." I sat on the edge of the chair, maintaining distance. "I was wrong," Dad said. His voice was weak. "I was so ashamed of failing. I gambled away our savings. I stole from my company. I was terrified of everyone knowing. So I took your money and I lied to cover it up. And then I kept lying because I did not know how to stop." He was really crying now. "I should have told you the truth. I should have been a real father. I am sorry." Mom squeezed my hand. "I am sorry too. We told ourselves we were good parents because we did not want to face what we had really done. We failed you in every way that mattered." I sat there, feeling their regret wash over me. Part of me wanted to forgive, to say it was okay, to restore something of our relationship. But the larger part of me knew the truth. "Thank you for apologizing," I said carefully. "But an apology does not erase what happened. You stole my inheritance. You kept my mother from me. You manipulated and exploited me for decades. Those are not things I can just forgive and move past." Mom started crying. "Is there any chance, someday, we could try again?" "Maybe," I said, though I did not believe it. "Right now, I need distance. I need to keep building a life that is not defined by your dysfunction." Dad nodded weakly. "I understand. I do not deserve your forgiveness. But I needed you to know I am sorry." I stayed for 20 minutes, then left. As I walked out of the hospital, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, but perhaps the beginning of letting go. Nathan's progress continued steadily. After 8 months at the agency, he was promoted to assistant designer. He was talented when he actually applied himself. He started dating someone named Maria, a teacher who called him out when he fell into entitled thinking. She was good for him. He proposed to Maria after a year of dating. She said yes. He called to tell me and asked if I would be in the wedding party. I agreed. Our sibling relationship had healed through honesty and his genuine accountability. At work, I became a mentor to younger women starting their sales careers. I realized my experience, painful as it was, gave me insights into recognizing manipulation and valuing yourself beyond what you provide others. I started speaking at women in business conferences. I shared my story carefully, focusing on overcoming adversity and building self-worth. I never named my parents publicly, but I told the truth about exploitation disguised as family obligation. My professional reputation grew. I was asked to sit on nonprofit boards, to mentor formally through business organizations. I found purpose in helping others recognize their value. Financially, I was secure for the first time in my life without guilt attached. The settlement money was invested wisely. My salary covered all expenses comfortably. I had emergency funds fully stocked, retirement accounts maxed out. I owned my loft outright with no mortgage. The freedom was profound. No strings, no obligations, no hidden debts. Aunt Linda passed away peacefully in her sleep at age 78, 2 years after the settlement. She left me $50,000 in her will. The accompanying letter said, "Patricia would want you to have this." She also left me all remaining photos, letters, and documents about Patricia. Among these items was Patricia's journal from the year she was pregnant with me. Reading it was heartbreaking and healing simultaneously. She wrote about her fear, her shame, her love for me, her hope that I would have a better life than she could provide at 16. One entry, written a week before my birth, said, "Tomorrow I meet my daughter, and then I have to say goodbye. I do not know if I can do this, but I have to believe she deserves more than a teenage mother who does not know who she is yet. I hope she knows someday that I loved her. I hope she knows she was wanted, even if I could not keep her." Another entry, from when I was 5 years old. "I saw Rebecca at the family picnic today. She is so smart, so curious. She asked me about 100 questions about clouds and birds and why the sky is blue. I wanted to tell her I am her mother. I wanted to hold her and never let go. But I signed papers. I gave up that right. All I can do is send money and hope Elizabeth and Robert are good to her." The final entry in the journal, written a month before Patricia died, said, "Rebecca is 8 now. Elizabeth says she is excelling in school, that she is kind and hardworking. I set up the life insurance and trust to make sure she is taken care of if anything happens to me. I left letters with Linda to give her when she is old enough. I hope she understands. I hope she knows I never stopped loving her." Reading those words, I felt a connection to Patricia stronger than I had ever felt to the people who raised me. She loved me authentically. She provided for me sacrificially. She wanted the best for me even when it cost her everything. My parents' love had always been transactional, conditional on my performance and compliance. Patricia's love was pure, asking nothing in return. I kept her journal on my nightstand. When life felt hard, I read her words and remembered where I came from. 2 years after that dinner where my father slammed his fist on the table and demanded I sign away $270,000, my life is unrecognizable. I am 34 now, thriving in ways I never imagined possible. I was promoted again last month to Vice President of Western Region Sales. My salary is $200,000 per year. I oversee operations across 5 states and lead a team of 40 people. Success still surprises me sometimes. I wake up in my beautiful loft, sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, and I think about the person I was 2 years ago. Anxious, people-pleasing, convinced my worth was measured by what I gave to others. I barely recognize her now. Gabriel and I are engaged. He proposed on the anniversary of the day we met, at the restaurant where we had our first date. The ring is simple and perfect, exactly what I would have chosen. We are planning a small wedding next fall, just close friends and the family I have chosen. Nathan will walk me down the aisle. Not because tradition demands a male relative escort me, but because he is my real family now. The brother I have through honest relationship, not biological obligation. The Patricia Torres Scholarship Fund has grown beyond what I imagined. Last year's fundraiser raised $80,000. We awarded 3 full scholarships to foster youth pursuing college degrees. I met each recipient, told them about Patricia, about her love and sacrifice. One recipient, a young woman named Sophia, cried when I gave her the award. She said, "Someone I never met believed I was worth investing in. That changes everything." I understood exactly what she meant. My parents still live in their small apartment. I hear updates occasionally through Nathan, though he maintains only minimal contact with them. Dad never fully recovered from his heart attack. He is on disability now, bitter about his reduced circumstances. Mom tried to reach out once through Nathan, asking if we could have coffee and talk. I declined politely. Some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt. The foundation is gone. I feel no guilt about this boundary. Guilt was the weapon they used to control me for 3 decades. I will not pick it up again. A few relatives still invite my parents to family events. I do not attend those gatherings. Most of the extended family understands. Some have even apologized for initially judging me, for believing my parents' version before knowing the truth. The truth always surfaces eventually. That is something I have learned. Lies take constant energy to maintain. Truth just exists, patient and persistent. Last month, Nathan and Maria got married. It was a small ceremony in a garden, full of laughter and genuine joy. I was maid of honor. During the reception, Nathan gave a speech thanking the people who taught him what real family means. He looked at me and said, "My sister showed me that family is not about obligation or guilt. It is about showing up honestly, taking accountability, and choosing each other every day. Rebecca, thank you for not giving up on me when you had every reason to." I cried through the whole speech. Nathan is thriving too. He was promoted to creative director at his agency. He and Maria bought a small house in a neighborhood they can actually afford. They built a life on realistic foundations, not fantasy and entitlement. He still sends me $50 every month. Over 2 years, that is $1,200. It does not come close to what was taken from me, but that is not the point. The point is accountability, amends, choosing to be different than the generation before us. I add every payment to the scholarship fund. Patricia's money continues to help young people, the way she always wanted. Sometimes people ask me if I regret fighting back, if I wish I had just kept the peace and maintained family relationships. The answer is always no. I lost people who were never really on my side. I lost a relationship built on lies and exploitation. What I gained is so much greater. I gained truth. I gained self-respect. I gained the knowledge that I am worth fighting for. I gained Patricia, finally. Not physically, but in every way that matters. I read her letters and journals. I visit her grave and tell her about my life. I feel her pride when I succeed and her comfort when I struggle. Last week, I went to the cemetery on what would have been Patricia's 48th birthday. I brought flowers and sat on the grass beside her headstone. I told her everything. The promotion, the engagement, the scholarship fund, the lives being changed because of her love and foresight. I told her I wish I had known her, but I carry her with me anyway. In my refusal to be exploited, in my commitment to truth, in my determination to help others know their worth. "Thank you for planning for my future even when you could not be in it," I said aloud. "Thank you for leaving proof that I was worth fighting for. I promise I will make you proud." The wind picked up, rustling through the trees. It felt like an answer, like Patricia heard me and approved. I left the cemetery peaceful, ready for whatever comes next. That Sunday dinner when my father slammed the table and demanded I sign for $270,000 changed my entire life. He thought he was calling in a debt I owed. Instead, he freed me from a lifetime of false obligation. I learned that worth is inherent, not earned through endless giving. I learned that family should build you up, not tear you down for their benefit. I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to participate in dysfunction. Most importantly, I learned that speaking truth is not betrayal. Silence is betrayal. Accepting exploitation is betrayal of yourself. Patricia left me more than money. She left me proof that I mattered, that I was worth protecting and providing for. Taking back what was mine was not revenge. It was justice. It was honoring her sacrifice and love. Now I live a life Patricia would be proud of. Authentic, boundaried, successful on my own terms. I help others find their worth. I refuse to shrink or accommodate people who see me as a resource rather than a person. The family I thought I owed everything actually owed me everything. Taking it back was not cruelty. It was claiming my right to a life built on truth instead of lies. If you are reading this and recognizing yourself in my story, if you have family members who demand endless giving while providing only guilt and obligation, know this: you do not owe anyone your destruction. You do not owe anyone your silence about their abuse. You do not owe anyone access to your life if they have only ever taken from it. Speaking up might cost you relationships, but those relationships were costing you yourself. That is always too high a price. I found my worth not in what my parents told me, but in what Patricia showed me. I was worth her sacrifice. I was worth her planning and providing. I was worth fighting for. You are too. Have you ever had a family member exploit you under the guise of obligation? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and demanding justice? Drop your story in the comments. I read every one, and your experience matters. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about family dynamics, standing up for yourself, and finding healing after betrayal. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they do not have to set themselves on fire to keep others warm. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone find the courage to claim their own truth. May you always know your worth. May you always protect your peace. And may you always choose truth over comfortable lies. Until next time, take care of yourselves. You deserve it.